start. So welcome again, everyone. Benvenuti a tutti. My name is Tiziana Cervesato. I'm the Director of Events at the Italian Cultural Center. And it's a great pleasure to have you all here for another episode of Il Salotto degli Artisti, and actually the last episode of our series. It's been so great to meet so many artists living and working in Florence. And I would also like to take this opportunity to say thank you, a big thank you to Giulia Angeli and Zoe Cinel, our two curators for this series, as well as to thank the Rochester Art Center, our partner for this series. Today we are very lucky to have with us artist David Hartono and Associazione Culturale Heyart, represented by Antonella Centrone. So welcome both, a big welcome to both of you. And also so that everyone knows, there will be time for questions after the presentation, but from the beginning, just feel free to type your questions directly in the chat. And without further ado, it is my pleasure now to give the word to Giulia and Zoe, who will lead this presentation. Enjoy.
Thank you, Tiziana, for the introduction. And the title for this event, Salotto, in English is living room, came from wanting this event to feel like a place for encounters, connections, and conversations, such as the Salotto actually is in Italian houses. We, as Tiziana said, we met once a month from February till now with artists and gallery spaces, working with the most diverse media and techniques. While in fall 2020, we focused on Italian artists living in Florence. This time we met with international artists who decided to make Florence their home, to understand how they adapted to a different cultural context. In fact, today we are here with David Hartono, originally from Indonesia, and with Antonella Centrone, who represents Associazione Heyart. And I'd like to start with Associazione Heyart, which was founded in 2010 to highlight and support local artists, particularly emerging young artists, and connect them with the audience and the city of Florence. Heyart organizes exhibitions and cultural events in non-traditional spaces, such as parks and other public venues that are not yet included in touristic routes. So first, I'd like you, Antonella, to tell us how Associazione Heyart came to life.
Hi, thanks for the invite. I am Antonella, and I have been working with the Association Heyart for 10 years. It's a pleasure for me to talk about our activities in Florence. The Heyart Association was founded in Florence by our current president, Francesca Botano, and young local artists and creatives, with the intent of giving a space to emerging talent and contemporary artistic phenomena. The aim of the association is to bring creativity to interact and integrate with every area of the social fabric, from economics to politics, to science, to religion, to production and education. With a view of enhancing the current cultural and artistic panorama, Heyart is trade union between the artist and the public, proposing itself is a meeting place for common cultural interest. Initially, the association mainly dealt with the contemporary art exhibition. I like to remember the first our exhibition, Visibiliars, a collective photography at Le Murate here in Florence. Curated by Valerio Deo, is a teacher of art very famous in Florence. Throughout the years, many projects and collaborations have started with the public and the private subject. One such project is Art Garden, and I would like to share the photo of this project. This is our presentation. And this is the image of Art Garden created by David Hartono. So, Art Garden is located in the Horticultura Garden, a beautiful park in the northern zone of Florence that until a few years ago was frequented mainly by locals. Thanks to the events organized by Heyart, the garden has become one of the top destinations for the Florentines summer season. Blooming lane, green fields, and a huge 19th century greenhouse make this place unique, where beauty has a delicacy of a flower. The Art Garden project aims at sharing creative processes and creating a space for interaction between the public and the various artistic disciplines, such as live painting, visual art, portrait, music, dance, and theater performance, as well as thematic workshop. The materials created during the exhibition are the result of the experience and the work carried out by children and adults on the basis of their suggestion and the indication of the artist who rework them in a performative installation key within the park. The exhibition ends with a final event, the summary of the journey with the installation, and one performance of visual art on the Bondi Loggia by David Hartono, our friend David. In the next summer, Art Garden choose a different interpretation of the previous edition, as the fil rouge of the review will be the theme of the loss of the self and the reworking of one identity in relation to the emergency of COVID pandemic. This year, through artistic expression, Art Garden offer participants the possibility of giving a new form of representation of the self, reducing communication distances and reinventing their identity by giving a voice to the multiplicity that inhabits ourselves. Therefore, we are waiting for Horticultura Garden from mid-June for the new edition. We hope mid-June.
We all hope that. And thank you for sharing this overview of your programming. And I post on the chat the link to Associazione Heyart Facebook page, so everyone can see and be updated to their events. And I really hope to join you this summer in Arte Cultura, since I'm in Florence. And talking about your programming, I think that one of the most interesting event you curated is Creative Factory. Creative Factory is a program of contemporary art and craft markets, and the thing that it's peculiar in this case is that markets take places in unusual, in non-traditional places, locations outside the main tourist routes. So that's really interesting, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit more, especially where the idea of this program came from.
Yes, I share this. So. Thanks, Giulia. Yes, Creative Factory is a self-made market aimed at promoting creativity and youth enterprise, born from a art passion for art and handmade. Self-production, uniqueness, and research. These are the characteristics of the production we are looking for in this event. Handmade production with attention to the smallest details, unique pieces dedicated to the limited edition, object of art and design created by young artists, designer, and maker from all over Italy. Creative Factory is part of various festivals in Florence and in Tuscany, and is hosted in different locations, in location outside the usual tourist circuit. The first location is Tepidarium del Roster. Tepidarium is the largest Italy greenhouse, one of most fascinating places in Florence. The greenhouse was built in the second half of the 19th century by the architect Giacomo Roster, a former collaborator of Giuseppe Poggi in the construction of the city avenues. The occasion was the first international horticulture exhibition that was held in Florence that year. Therefore, a larger greenhouse was needed in order to house the most exotic varieties of plants from all over the world. Today, the building restored by municipality of Florence plays host to a variety of cultural events. Another place, important place, this is other photo of the Tepidarium. This is Museo Stibert. The Stibert Museum is was a residence of Mr. Stibert, an Anglo-Italian collector. His museum house hosts a curious and extensive collection of weapons, armor, customs, and objects from various areas and origins. Donated to the city of Florence in the 18th century when he died. The Stibiert Museum offers an original experience to tourists, a journey back in time. Another location is hosted Creative Factory. Other photo is la Galleria Museo Bellini. It's a private museum located on the Lungarno Soderini, belonging to the Bellini family. In 2008, they opened the doors of their palace, where one of the most prestigious collections in Europe is kept. Thanks to the many events, it's possible to visit the collection of paintings, tapestry, sculpture, and fabrics, mainly from the Renaissance period, kept by the family since 17th century. The last location is Manifattura Tabacchi, a new reality of Florence that takes place in the former cigar factory, abandoned in 2001. The ambitious project aims to give life to a new district of the city through fashion, art, and contemporary design.
Sorry, I got a little bit distracted by these wonderful pictures. They're really, really wonderful, really amazing. And it's very, what you do, it's unique because usually tourists only wander inside the city center, and instead these locations you mentioned are not in the city center, a little bit outside, but is easily reachable on foot or by public transport. So I really recommend everyone who are planning an holiday in Florence to keep these places in mind. And so now I'd like you to, in a certain way, introduce the other guest we have today, David Hartono, because you two collaborated, as you said, several times in the past. And I think last time was summer 2020. And I think the project you made up is really moving. And so I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about that.
Thanks. Yes, this project is called Sonnet. It was born as a sign of hope, a hymn to positive transformation and the desire for creativity after the period of emergency that characterized the long quarantine of March and April 2020. Sonnet is a small visual review curated by David Hartono and live music by DJ Coco. The project was selected by the municipality of Scandicci near Florence for the summer review Open City 2020, and with the collaboration of children from different schools in the city, who sent us their drawing inspired by the post-pandemic hopes that David reworked in 2 video projections, and Daniela, alias Coco DJ, provided the soundtrack. But I prefer that David to talk more in the detail of this project, because the idea of Sonnet is yours.
Yes. So later I will show all of you the Sonnet video. So it's, as you can see, it's a drawing sent by the children that then I animate and then I project it on the city wall, because I thought that it's about sharing. It's about, as an artist, most of the time we express our ideas into a medium, but with Sonnet, the idea was to help other people to express their ideas into, maybe they don't have a technical knowledge, they don't have the chance, they don't have the opportunity, but I think each of us has a message to tell. So Sonnet it was about that. As an artist, how can I help other people to tell their message?
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing, Antonella, about Heyart's work. It's really exciting. I can't wait to come back home and like join you guys. And we will hear more from David, but let me just introduce him. So David Hartono is a creative artist who combines visual and technology. After graduating with a master's degree from Utrecht School of Arts in the Netherlands, he started working in commercial and artistic projects, creating graphics, visuals, and special effects for video, websites, and projections. He lives in Florence, where he co-founded the creative digital studio Monogrid, and where he develops independent projects of video art installation and projections that we will see soon. So why don't we start a little bit with your artistic background, and why did you move to Florence?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank you, the Italian Cultural Center, Tiziana, and then Zoe and Giulia. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and I'm so excited also to meet new people here in the Salotto, and also because this event is so Italian, like, you know, it's just Italian culture to share, to be in the living room, to chat, usually over dinner. I mean, unfortunately, we can't have like a aperitivo or dinner here, but still the spirit is the same. So let me share my screen with all of you. So I'm my background, I'm a digital artist. I specialize mostly on video mapping. As you can see here, it's an art that combines physical building with the digital projection that is used to alter the identity of the physical building. So by using lights, we create an illusion to change the identity of a building. So to answer Zoe's question, why Florence? Actually, I came to Florence initially for a project, for commercial projects, and I thought like, okay, I've never been to Florence. I didn't speak any Italians. I didn't know anyone at all, and I thought like, okay, let's give it a try. And after first few months, I really like it. I discovered Florence as I think historically Florence is a place to create. It's a laboratory. It's a place where Michelangelo creates, Leonardo da Vinci creates. It's really a place for craftsmanship. I think people understood the quality, people understood art. So there are lots of space, laboratory. It's so different than Milan and Rome or any other big city. It's kind of like medium-sized city where you can actually focus on your projects without too distracted. So this is my first projection mapping in Florence, which is funny. As a projection artist, actually Florence in the 80s had their own projection artist called Mario Mariotti, and this is the second year when I arrived in Florence. They organized this event where they give opportunity for people to project on this church. So I thought like, wow, it's like a kind of like a destiny. So that's how my story started with Florence. So, and then after that, it's just like, I feel like, okay, this is like a place for me. So that's how I I chose Florence, let's say, and I decided to stay here.
Well, it's really great to hear, yeah, from an artist like that. You find a community and a sense of creativity in Florence, beside, you know, the Renaissance, and showing the opportunities that there are for more contemporary projects. So I was wondering if you have, well, you already talked a little bit about what video mapping is, but if you have other projects that you want to share with us that you worked on since you moved to Florence.
Yeah, sure. And let me see if the slide. And I mean, come on, who can resist this this city? I mean, it's just so beautiful to walk. Let's say, okay. So the thing about Florence is, I think most of the people find it a bit limiting in terms of it's not a big city, so you don't have the kind of audience and opportunity that usually a big city provides you. But the best thing about Florence, I think, is it's so small, it's so easy to know everyone, and it's so easy to have access to a kind of a unique place, or access to a kind of like a Associazione Heyart before. It's easy to have access to a place that usually it requires a really difficult bureaucracy to access. So, for example, this is a project I did in Florence. Is a villa of one of the oldest family in Florence. It's called Rucellai, which he saw his work at one of the event, and he was just like, "Hey, I have this historic villa. What do you need to project at my place?" So it's kind of, you know, like let's say village. It's not a village, but it's a village kind of interaction. It's you kind of know people, and these people give you chance. Yeah, let's try to do this. I have amazing building. Come to my villa, project it. What do you need? Let me help you. So then I created this projection mapping for him. The beautiful thing about projection mapping that I really like is actually I never projected. Usually people who do projection mapping tends to project like a special effect, like, I don't know, like a building that's crumbling, a futuristic thing. But I really like to study the history of the building, to understood what is actually the real identity of the building. Is it a old Renaissance building? Is it like has a historical theme? So, for example, for this villa, I studied. This is mostly I reuse a lot of. This is an element by really Renaissance. This is an element by Botticelli that I reworked with and I reanimated. There is also elements by Alberti, the Renaissance architects from Florence, because in this inside this villa, I'm gonna try to find it. This is the symbols of the family that is this villa created by Leon Battista Alberti, and this is also all of the other symbols created by him. So I thought, like, let's try to reuse this old elements, but in the modern context, and projected it. in this way, I think the digital projects and the physical identity of the building like blends perfectly. This is what I really enjoy usually as a digital artist to project in Florence, because the building itself has already a really strong history and identity. And then the next project is also actually in the in the party before, in the project before. I knew the owner of Emilio Pucci, the famous fashion brand. She said to me like, "Wow, I really like your projection. Can we do something?" So I created a projection inside this Villa Palazzo Pucci, it's called. It's a Pucci palace. It's where they host most of the Pucci collection. Here I studied again the culture of Emilio Pucci. As you can see here, it has this vibrant color and a really unique pattern in the fashion in the Emilio Pucci collection, as you can see here. So I started to adapt the vibrant color, rework on these illustrative elements, and reanimate them, and reprojected it in the palace. So the whole thing, I think, came into once. It's you can see the balance between the building and the other pieces inside the Palazzo Pucci, and also the projection. Yes, I hope that next time, maybe if some of you came to Florence, like I can invite you to one of my projections. So this is my latest two projects, Zoe. So
yeah, so thank you for sharing that. It looks really beautiful. Also looks really fun to be at those parties with the fire and all of that. So I mean, we assume that pandemic impacted your work, being so based on those more social activities, events, parties, and gatherings in public spaces. So, but as Antonella already mentioned, that didn't stop you from using the walls of the city as sort of like public platforms for people to have an artistic experience, right? So tell us more about what you did, right?
Yeah. So actually, yeah, after when the pandemic started, all of these events, of course, they stopped. Nobody do events anymore, and it's it's forbidden to open any public events for more than people. So of course, a lot of industry, live event industry suffer, like concerts and parties and exhibition. So I had no more projection mapping project basically, and we all stayed at home, like most of the people, for 3 months. So, but this is how it looks, the Galleria degli Uffizi during the pandemic. It's totally such a beautiful spring days last year, but it was totally empty. So during the pandemic, I started thinking what kind of artistic challenge and what kind of opportunity I have as an artist. Like most of the artists, I had no access to the studio or to the work environment. I don't have the tools. It's a totally different rhythm and mentality. It's like you suddenly find a lot of time at home. You start to reassess again what's your goal. But on the other hand, it's also opportunity to reinvent yourself, to construct future project, and doing supportive artistic activities such networking, marketing, research, and also in the way to contribute maybe to the society in the virtual way. I started to project. I had a little projectors at home, and I started to project around the house, inside the house, outside. So at one point, I started to project outside the house. This is the house in front of my home during the quarantine. Okay. So I started to project some of the visuals. Like you can totally see, this is like a totally typical Florentine's apartment, like nothing new, nothing normal. So I started to project for my neighbors. Like there was some initiative, like the musician who plays in the balcony. So I thought like, okay, I would like to participate as well. And I would like to project for my neighbors some visuals also for me to keep myself sharp. So I started to project different visual and different message. This is Italians. The first one translated is like I stay at home, and the second one translated is like we will bloom again. So I started to project this and I shared them on the Instagram, on the social media, and people really loved it. And then some people started to write to me. It's like, wow, it's really, really cool. It's really nice and amazing. And some of them are illustrators. So I said to them like, okay, if you would like to project as well, why don't you send me your illustration? So some people started to send me their illustration, and I started to animate them and project them. So this continues like with a lot of artists and even like artists from abroad. And after that, like even some of the musicians send message to me. It's like, oh, can I send you some soundtracks? I said like, yeah, sure, why not? So it became like for 2 months, almost every night I project from a different work from different artists in front of my house with a different soundtrack, and it's really, really cool. I mean, it's really cool to see what other people do with like with with the with the wall in front of your house basically, and what kind of message the project is really beautiful. Like as you can see, like some musical, some projected summer, some like a simple message like to change and chants and basically, yeah, I knew a lot of new artists from this project, which is really, really nice, actually. People that I never met before, people that I met online, and people that now continue to collaborate with me with the different projects. So it was really, really, really cool, I think. So now we will arrive at the project that we were talking before, which is the sonnet, the project that we did with the Heyart. So Antonella contacted me and asked me like, we have a chance to do a project in Scandicci, which is a little suburb in Florence, and she asked me like, what can we do together? I thought like, okay, it's really, I'm still amazed by a lot of message and the positive message and that the other artists shared to me. So I thought with Antonella, why don't we expand the project and we do an open call, especially for maybe for kids, because we knew that during the lockdown, a lot of parents struggles to entertain, let's say to invent activity. I was about to say entertain, but yeah, we are entertaining kids basically. But a lot of parents struggles to find activity for the children during the lockdown, because suddenly everybody has to be kindergarten teacher, let's say. So I thought to Antonella, why don't we expand the project in front of my house, and we do an open call also for kids. So I started sending friends, basically teachers' friend, like this kind of two simples paper to print, and I asked them, could you please print this and ask your kids to draw inside the area and then scan it and send it back to me, basically, and we want a positive message about the lockdown. So some kids, we started getting reply, and because like, wow, the parents, when we contacted her, like, they're so happy because yes, finally I can invent something for my kids to do something, to draw anything. So we started receiving this, and we finally had a chance. This is last summer when Italy is the lockdown a bit. We started to project kids drawing. I animate each one of a kid's drawing like in the simple way, and as you can see, it's really nice. It's really interesting to see what kind of drawings kid, and they wrote also their name and their hopes, the drawings. This is like see, because they kids and their friends, they can only see each other from the windows, and so we project this in 2 locations. So this is the first location. Yeah, this was like really, as you can see, it's a bit like this kind of event is. We just brought projectors outside. I'm really glad to collaborate with the organization like Heyart, because they support artists in the way that as an artist you want to focus on your artistic side, and association like Heyart basically helps you to find a venue, to find like equipment, to find a place and time and event that helps you, so you just focus on your artistic side. And the response was really positive. Like a lot kids comes, also parents come to see the projection made by the kids. And actually, yeah, we are looking forward to redo this project, maybe with maybe. So yeah, this is our last project from the lockdown.
This is so wonderful. I am like kind of envious for your neighbors that I got to see so much good stuff for like so long, right? Like they got some sort of like movie theater, artistic movie theater in the worst time. So yeah, and I believe that for the kids and family to see such, you know, such a big projection of their work, it must have been a really exciting experience after so much isolation. Thank you, David, for your work and for sharing with us.
Thank you.
I think we can open up to questions from the audience now. So please type your question in the chat for Antonella and for David. And we hosted their websites or platform, so you can see more.
Antonella, I have a question for you, actually. Can you tell us a little bit more of, you know, how the logistics work when you help David, you know, set up such a project of projections on buildings? Is it difficult to find locations, or how does it work? And you are muted.
Yes, is for the private location is it's not difficult because there isn't bureaucratic problems. The problems are with the public space, because in Italy the delay is difficult. So the permission and the request to the municipality, or it's difficult, but now after 10 years of work, we have a work method, so it's possible organize event such in private and in public space.
Grazie.
Thanks.
And I'd like to say something. It's not actually a question. It's more something I thought, that even before you focus a lot on open spaces such as Giardino dell'Orticoltura, and so probably you are it's easier for you to plan next month's events, because you already have such a program of open spaces event. Now that due to COVID pandemic, we are invited to stay outside rather than inside.
Yes, in the open space it isn't difficult. The last summer was possible to work in only open space, because last October, when the winter is coming, the work is the pandemic situation is it's more difficult. So from the last October, the association don't no work in Florence as in Italy. But now from June, we hope to work another time with more tranquility and more hope for the future.
Well, I hope people like, I don't know, if you have questions, just feel free, don't be shy. David, I wanted to know, what are like next projects for your summer? Are you excited about this summer? Will you be able to do some more projections?
Yeah, so summer is actually, I'm excited, but summer is actually a really difficult time to do projection, because it's getting dark so late. So I'm actually more looking forward for winter. But yes, there are some obviously a lot of events from different castles, and there are 2 or 3 palaces and villas that has already contacted me to do a projection mapping. So yes, I'm looking forward to that. And I would like maybe if possible to also invite like artists from abroad, projection mapping, to do more collaboration with them. And maybe to, if it's possible, to do like a mini festival in projection mapping, because actually Florence now since 5 years organize every winter a projection mapping festival in Florence. Yes.
I was wondering, is there a favorite building? Like, what's your favorite building where you projected on?
Oh, I love the first building that I showed because it's just so flat.
Right?
It's the Santo Spirito Church, yes.
I don't remember the history of Santo Spirito. Giulia probably does. She's an actual art historian. But it's unfinished, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and by being on the other, basically Florence, I think is divided by two. Let's say the main side of the river and the other side of the river, let's say, and Santo Spirito being on the other side of the river, which is, I think, in the history with such a bit poorer, let's say. The facade of the church, I think there has something to do with that.
Yes, actually, the first church was oriented in the other side, so with the facade to the river and not in the other way, which is now. And it shouldn't not be flat, the facade. So thanks to the unfinished work of Brunelleschi, it's a perfect facade to project on. And you mentioned Mario Mariotti, because he first projected on that facade, and for our audience who is not in Florence, recently Palazzo Strozzi showed a work of art by a contemporary artist, which is not a projection, but it's an installation that reminds, it's La Ferita, which is the wound. And in some ways reminds of this work of Mariotti on Santo Spirito facade. So if you had the chance to look for Palazzo Strozzi programming, is really interesting, and I think you find the reference to Mariotti's work as well.
I wanted to, well, this is more than, I mean, it's not a question, it's more like some sort of comments. I think, David, that your work in a way does really function well with Florence as a city and with the Italian context, because there is such a public dimension to video mapping that I think it's kind of amazing in the contemporary field, when a lot of the work that it's considered contemporary art lives in a museum, which is a space that can be accessible like galleries or collections, right? And those are spaces that can be more or less accessible. And especially right now where things are open, or maybe they're not open. But yeah, I do really feel that in a dimension like Florence, where you just walk in the city and art is kind of public art in a certain way, right? It's like the beauty of a church. You will just see it by just walking in the street. And then adding a layer of contemporary to those places, it's really fascinating to me, because one of the things that we know as like people that live in Italy or Italians is that you can't touch the buildings, so everything is historical, right? So it's really hard to like make modification to the actual landscape. But then through projection, you can really add the layer of contemporary visual art without having to touch, etc. So just wanted to like give it a read about your work, and I think how it really works perfectly with the landscape, or if you ever thought about it.
Yeah, actually, I think projection mapping, being an outdoor kind of art, is really suited really well. with the actually Italian culture as general. Like Italians really is a really outdoor people. Really, like you do your walks after dinner. You gather outside in the piazza. So yeah, culturally, it's this kind of art really appreciated and really flourished because also of this kind of the Italian culture. Yes. I saw a question in the chat. What kind of projectors do you use? Yeah, what kind of projectors I use? It actually depends on the building. So there is things called lumens. Lumens is basically how you call it, how strong the light is. So it's a light measurement system. So basically minimum we have to have like a bright light. You have to have like 100 lumens every square meter. So depending on the dimension of the buildings, then I calculate the projectors that I need. Yes, so it really depends on the building. Yes, for example, I think like if the building is like 20 meters by 20 meters, then you need like 30,000 lumens projectors, which is like a huge projectors. Yes. So in this case, like usually it's really helpful, like association, like Heyart to help me like to get the real measurements of the building. Otherwise, I'm usually measure the building in Google Maps, so it's really handy.
There is another question that from Kyle. Have you done any projection on nature, tree, rivers? Would that be interesting to you?
Yes, I tried trees, and maybe it sounds a bit like how you call it, like a bit simple, but actually with the trees it depends on the color of the leaves, because if you have a tree with the dark leaves, it's the light doesn't project well. It's like projecting on the black wall. You don't see the projection. So I have to find trees with light color leaves. So it's not so easy. So, but yes, I tried. It's really you need to kind of and because trees has many holes, has many distance between leaves. So it's kind of tricky. So you have to kind of project something simple like a pattern, not with so much details. And rivers, no, I've never tried it, but the water is transparent, so I think I really need a shallow river, and it might be tricky because river is also dark. So, but it's a good idea. I will try it. Thank you.
I'm seeing a comment from Carrie Morgan that it's too bad that many cities in the US, there's not such a strong pedestrian culture as in Florence. I do agree very much with that. I live in Minneapolis, St. Paul, without a car for 4 years. Now I have a car because there's a pandemic. I can't take a bus. Honestly, it makes life much easier. But I really like taking a bus so I don't have to think about things. And I can read the book. So yes. I have one last question from me for Antonella. How do you reach out to your artists? Where do you find them?
We found with or we through personal contact, or when we see other exhibition, or if possible that some artists write to us, send photo of his art, or we we go on the artistic fair in all over Italy.
I think it's kind of amazing how, like, seeing from your pictures how many people are involved, how many artists you're able to bring together, right? And like creating that network connection, it really, even for just the artists, it really is something important to have that kind of exchange. There's a question from Carla for, I think, David. Are you inspired by textiles?
Yes, definitely yes. It's a nice analogy, let's say. The way textiles is used to make clothes for our bodies, to give identity for our bodies, to ourselves, is the same way I see it, how with lights and projection, I give identity to the buildings. So definitely textiles, yes. And also with the different pattern of textile that actually the way we use textile to dress is the same way that you dress a building, let's say. So definitely yes. And for example, Emilio Pucci, there's so many beautiful patterns and colors and forms in the textile. So yes, definitely yes.
All right. Do we have any other questions? I feel we're headed to the end of this presentation. Again, I would like to say a big thank you to Antonella and David for being with us here today. It's been great to be able to learn more about your work, your challenges, the opportunities in the city of Florence. So that's really great. Thank you again to Zoe and Giulia as well for creating this series. It's been a great collaboration with the two of you, and we look forward to more in the future for sure. So yeah, I don't know, Giulia and Zoe, if you would like to say a few words as a conclusion.
Yeah, I would say, like, well, it's been another great journey, this like second series of Salotto, and an awesome opportunity to connect more dots, more artists, and more people that make it possible for artists to express their work and express themselves in Florence with an American audience. So thank you for the opportunity, and so glad that David and Antonella could be with us today.
Thank you, everyone. I wish everyone a great day, and see you soon. Grazie. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, everyone. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.
Bye, David. Ciao, ciao.